But let's talk to Deputy Political Editor over there at The Sun. Ryan Sabey is with us. I mean, there's a lot to wade through here, Ryan. You've also pulled an all-nighter.
No, exactly, yeah.
We're looking brilliant.
No, exactly.
I mean, me and you always look good.
Well,
you know,
we're at the second win stage of the day, I think.
Absolutely. So what are we making of... You know, I said at the beginning, I think it's a shoot. I think Yvette Cooper will be the Home Secretary. Rachel Reeves, it would be extraordinary if she wasn't the Chancellor. Wes Streeting, although he very nearly lost his seat last night. That's a whole other story. Didn't see that one coming. He'll be the Health Secretary. Beyond that, I'm not so sure, and certainly not sure about David Lammy.
I think one of the things that Keir Starmer wants to do is he's talks about his 6 missions, these key big areas, whether it's immigration or health, crime. And what he wants to do, I think he wants to stick very closely to the people who he's got in post already. Now, I don't see too many changes happening. We'll see what happens over the next couple of hours. But on David Lammy, it's an interesting point because he hasn't been front and centre of this campaign.
No.
He has been building relationships with the Democrats and the Republicans in America, trying to build close relationships with Macron in France. So that might be one reason why we haven't seen him. But I been with Keir Starmer for the past 2 weeks, and we did ask him specifically about that. And he actually laughed at the suggestion that David Lammy wouldn't be Foreign Secretary. Right. So I'm fully expecting. I think there'd have to be a big shift for those people not to be, especially in those key offices of state.
Sure. I mean, I said to you just before we came on air, I don't have any evidence or source for thinking that. There's just something about that appointment, and maybe it's only because, you know, Lammy has, he's got sort of slightly more left-wing previous in some of the things he said, which might rule him out for a job of such magnitude as Foreign Secretary.
Yeah, I think one of the things when you're doing reshuffles, spoken to lots of people involved, particularly on the Conservative side, is a bit like a jigsaw piece. So I think once you take one part out, or Jenga, you have to sort of slot someone else in. But if you've got those top positions sorted and they don't need to move, you keep them like that. But you've got Thangam Debonair, who lost her seat. Yep. So you will need to move someone to culture. So then do you move someone like, for example, Peter Kyle there, another household name that I'm sure you're aware of, and then you have to move someone up to. He's a great guy, by the way. But I think this is what happens when you do become a cabinet minister. The public just get to know you, so they will roughly know who. They all obviously know who Keir Starmer is, but Rachel Reeves, Yvette Cooper. But they just get to know the cabinet ministers because they're out more, they've got more serious jobs, and I think that's what happens. Yeah, and all of these names will be. Annalise Dodds arriving at Downing Street as well. Yvette Cooper, we were just talking about where's Yvette Cooper. She's just arriving as well. But these all become household names in a matter of weeks. Absolutely.
These are the people responsible for making life good, because that's what Keir Starmer said he's going to do.
Yeah, no, he 2 speeches we've had in the last 12 hours from him. He spoke at the Tate Modern, where he was saying he's going to try and sort of make Britain shine again, effectively rebuild that trust between the public and the politicians. And then we had that speech in Downing Street, where again he talks about that decade of public renewal. So he's trying to, and he says these things won't happen overnight. He's going to try and get a big house building blitz going. He knows that can't be done overnight. So I think in the next couple of weeks you're going to see some big announcements on that, big infrastructure projects, and it will happen slowly. But we have to do it brick by brick. I think that's one of the key things he's trying to get across. Yeah,
I think so. I don't envy the shadow cabinet, soon to be the cabinet, having to walk into. That's a fair longish walk from the gates in Whitehall up to the number 10 door, and it becomes, when I say longish, when you've got 500 people looking at you, I would imagine it takes everything not to do an accidental stupid walk.
Yeah, no, exactly.
What do you do with your hands?
Exactly.
Do you look smiley? Do you not look smiley? Do you look clumsy? Do you start to do a sort of strange bounce in your step?
Yeah, no, exactly. And having been there a lot, we go there most days for lobby briefings that are held in Downing Street. Those curbs can be quite big at times, so you could easily trip over them.
Oh, that would be worse.
Yeah, exactly. So, but I think the one good thing about walking into Downing Street or walking up Downing Street, it normally means you've got a job. Now, some people, once they've been inside, they've refused to move from their job, or they don't like the job they're going to. This is why there's all the problems that prime ministers have. One cabinet minister sat in a chair for hours and hours because they didn't want to move. So you have all these other things to concern yourself
Gavin
with.
Williamson springs to mind on that very point.
He was when he was I think when Defence Secretary, and they were trying to sort of move him around, and or when he was Chief Whip as well. So there's lots of things that, are these people the right person for it? Are they good on the media? All these kind of things you have to concern yourself with.
We were just saying just before the news, Ryan, that you know, this is a fairly protracted process because, of course, there's more cabinet positions than some people realise, but then there's all the ministerial ones as well.
No, exactly.
I mean, this goes on into the night almost.
So I think what you'll see from Keir Starmer is you'll have the big, all the cabinet positions filled by the end of today. He will know. He's been working on this for months and months and months. And then I think over the weekend you'll see those Minister of State levels and those junior ministers. And then probably into over the weekend, early part of next week, you'll see those the bag carriers, the parliamentary private secretaries, those people who help their ministers around Parliament. They'll be appointed. So. But one thing I will say, as I said, I was travelling with Sir Keir last week, and the beginning of the week, very, very cautious. And then Wednesday night, when he realised it was very, very difficult to make any slip-ups, or the Conservatives weren't going to create a sort of narrative for winning or see a route to winning, he was talking about how he's ready to govern, how he's ready to hit the ground running. And the shift of language was actually incredible, and sort of saying to how he's been saying to his team for 18 months, how on day one it will be unforgivable if we're not ready for government. I don't want anyone to have. I want you all to have made all those calls, all those, speak to all those people in industry or what have you, before you get to government. I don't want you making those calls on day one. They should have been done before that. You hit the ground running, and he wanted to be ready for government. That shift of language was incredible, actually.
Yeah. It's interesting as well, all these people going in, they've been, in shadow positions. I mean, Yvette Cooper has been Shadow Home Secretary for a long time, and speaking on sort of policing matters and the like forever. I've done a number of events where she's, been there to speak. She's a very good speaker in that respect. This is the job she wants, but her life will change. She will find herself within a couple of hours not going anywhere with about 8 or 10 armed people around.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And that will be the case for a long time.
And there's a lot of people in the cabinet. It's obviously the Prime Minister, Chancellor, Home Secretary, Foreign Secretary, Northern Ireland, Defence. They've all got these guys who I've spoken, obviously, lots of Tory ministers and cabinet ministers have been in that same position. They go to the cinema with the kids to watch. I'm trying to think of a film. Finding Nemo.
Yeah, there you go.
For an example, that's probably about 20 years old now.
Popular culture reference for the kids watching.
No, exactly. And sat behind them.
Mrs. Doubtfire.
I sat behind them, 2 police officers, because they have to be with them everywhere they go. So their lives do change, and it takes a bit of readjusting, particularly when you've got children of a certain age, and they have to get used to it. And that's probably why one of the reasons, again, speaking to Sir Keir over the last few days, he said he's going to be fiercely protective of his children, and you didn't see them in Downing Street earlier. They weren't there.
That's right. That's interesting.
And he said that his son is 16, just finished his GCSEs, I think he's got another child who's 13. They just don't want them to be part of this.
Yeah, and moving house, I mean, huge disruption, big focus. The kids in the area will all know who they are. So forever, oh, your dad's the Prime Minister. There's all of that, and not so kind words as well. So that's quite a big thing to have to deal with.
No, it's really, really difficult. And you look at how difficult it's been, on occasion for Blair's children. You go to Ewan Blair, there was that incident in Leicester Square where you put lemonade too many. But that's what all 18-year-olds do. And just because he was the son of the Prime Minister, he's on the front pages of the papers, and Tony Blair, I think he got a bit emotional in one of the TV interviews after that. And I think he choked up a little bit.
Well, they had to go down to Charing Cross Nick or whatever it was, him and Cherie, to sort of bail him out, or, pick him up.
No, exactly.
I think he took a caution for his endeavours, or whatever it was, although Ewan's gone on to do rather well.
No, he's a multi-millionaire.
I was going to say, he's richer than his dad.
No, exactly. And he's got a fantastic, bringing on apprenticeships and the recruitment schemes that he's got. So, and then you've obviously had John Major's children, David Cameron, obviously, he had young children in Downing Street.
Left one in a pub.
No, exactly, No, exactly. That was a fantastic story. Not so good for the parents, but
no, indeed. Well, I think it was a case where they thought they'd gone in the other. Everyone thought they'd gone in the other car, so they thought everything's fine, and I think the little girl was left sitting at the bar with a lemonade.
It's near Chequers, I think,
and a bag of Monster Munch. But there we go. In terms of Keir Starmer, then, I mean, this is, will we get, do you sense, an announcement soon, at least on those big positions? Because there's national security imperatives around this. You need to have these people appointed.
Yeah, there is talk of a speech over the weekend at some point. There's also, he's going to NATO next week. So he'll be meeting Joe Biden and Emmanuel Macron, all those NATO leaders. He's got to hit the ground running, because there is no let up. And I think the housing is going to be the big thing. I think you're going to get 2 or 3 announcements on that. Because he just knows he has to get on with it.
Yeah, but these big appointments, or the people that are going in now, we should know in a couple of hours.
We will know. What time is it now? 3:15. We'll know by 5:30. There'll be a slow trickle, and you get the announcements from Downing Street. The King has to formally sign it off, and they're ready to go. And don't forget, they've got the cabinet meeting tomorrow, so they will all meet formally for the first time. And you'd expect Sir Keir to say some words before that we'll know about, and it will just set the tone for his government.
What about Angela Rayner? What are you making of that, Ryan?
Yeah, I'm fully expecting her to get the brief that she's got, the housing brief, or sort of levelling up type brief. And Sir Keir it was always a bit puzzling whether she'd actually go from deputy leader of the Labour Party to deputy prime minister. And Sir Keir actually hadn't been asked it, or hadn't answered it. Yeah. And he clarified this about 6 months ago and said it's not even an issue. She will become deputy prime minister.
So by
that, yeah, it was if she's deputy leader, that's
so right, and so she will do the standing in as she's been doing anyway for the last couple of years. But I've always said, look, I mean, there are. I was talking to some landlords in the week who, clearly are watching this with interest, because there's the housing bill and the bills around tenancies and landlords and agreements and rents and goodness knows what else. It's taken that profession. Through the ringer on a number of occasions. Michael Gove saying, the Tories even doing things that landlords thought, well, hang on, why are the Tories doing this to us? And of course, nobody likes a flipping landlord, because everyone thinks they're pirates. And I can imagine Angela Rayner, and there's a bit of a stereotype on my part here, but given her background and the sort of gritty way that she comes at these things, I can't imagine her looking at landlords going, oh, I really want to help these guys.
Exactly. She'll be banging some heads together, and there's a lot of talk of no-fault evictions. I think Labour have mentioned that they'll do that as well. So, yeah, I expect that they're just going to get on with it, and they're going to go into those greyed out areas in towns, and that land that's unused or not being used effectively. And if they can build on it, they will. I
think they're going to just go roughshod over that planning regulation stuff and say, sorry, this is too urgent.
Yeah, they have said they want to build 1.5 million homes in the next 5 years, and they are going to go hell for leather on it.
That's an ambitious target by anybody's standards, because we've built so little in recent years that it's maybe not hard to at least beat.
Well, Sir Keir mentioned that in his speech earlier. He said you sort of have to be part of. It's a dream for many people, and he wants to help fulfil that.
This business, just a final point, Ryan, that is he going to go full-on Tony Blair, or is he going to go full-on Jeremy Corbyn? Now he's got the job. Does the mask come off Scooby-Doo style, and he suddenly says, right, OK, we're going to have rent agreements, we're going to have taxes at 60%. Which way does he go?
I think he just becomes Keir Starmer. I think he just gets on with it, and if he sees a problem, he tries to solve it. I think one of the big problems will be on tax, when they realise that if they do want to raise some money, they've guaranteed they're not going to raise income tax, VAT or national insurance, but some things around the edges, whether it's on people's savings or what have you, could there be a rebranding of council tax? That is probably the sort of area that's ripe for it. We at the Sun, we campaigned on fuel duty. There's that you could unfreeze that next year. I mean,
what happens with that? Because I noticed that Howard Cox, the Reform candidate in Dover, who did smash the Tories into third place. But curiously, and this is a whole other debate, in Dover, the coalface of the immigration story, they put a Labour MP into the seat. But Howard Cox said he was, he's disappointed that he felt that the Sun had kind of, not a ringing endorsement, but tacitly said, it's Keir Starmer has earned the right to manage.
Yeah, I think so.
Same for manage. But things like fuel duty and campaigns, there's some concern over that.
There probably should be some concern, but I've asked Rachel Reeves at least once or twice about this, and she says, judge me on my record. She's not voted for these levies to go up. One thing to watch out for is next March, the 5p temporary cut is due to lapse. That's only a temporary measure. And then every budget, you've got this option of unfreezing fuel duty, so the rate. So I'd be watching. We'll be watching that like a hawk.
And of course, if part and parcel of your DNA in this Parliament is green issues, then they can do this stuff quite unapologetically.
Yeah, no,
and
exactly.
argue that this is about, saving the planet and insects that you can't even pronounce.
Yeah, no, exactly. So, I think one of the things that Rachel Reeves probably doesn't want to do is her first budget create a war on motorists. She'll be watching that and being aware. She's clearly aware of that. So I've asked her a few times.
When do you get some kit, Ryan?
Hopefully tonight. I'm hoping maybe about 11 o'clock tonight.
Yeah. Well, you know what this indust's like. That might be just that might just be a dream.
Exactly. I think
something breaks at 10 and that's it.
Exactly. It's a busy weekend for Keir. You may be travelling, and he's definitely travelling next week, and then obviously you've got cabinet meeting tomorrow. So there's lots of things going on.
And we've just heard that Angela Rayner has been confirmed as Deputy Prime Minister and Levelling Up Secretary, which is exactly what we were just saying. Yeah. So she retains the position she's been shadowing for a while. Angela Rayner appointed Deputy Prime Minister. Ryan, thank you. Good to see you. Ryan Sabey with us from The Sun.